rough, hardened look was unmistakable. This was Hegel, the Black Wolf tribe's chief and a longtime free mercenary. The silence was suddenly broken by Israel. "Harp is late. I asked him to pick up my son at the village gate after hearing he'd returned with some suspicious company." That doubtful tone was quickly dismissed by Hegel. "Please wait a little longer. That one is my right hand. He's very good at what he does." Since the chief had spoken, Israel didn't say anything further and just sat in waiting. Suddenly, the living room door was flung open and Oren burst in, shouting, "Father!" No greetings, just storming in like that. Israel, keeping his calm but unable to hide his annoyance, approached his son. "Oren, where have you been all this time? Coming back only now. What about Harp? Did you see him on the way back?" The barrage of questions left the cat panting before he could respond. He had rushed back as fast as he could to report, practically running on empty by the time he reached home. Now up close, Israel noticed his son looked skinnier than before. "Where's your food? Why do you look like you came back empty-handed, with nothing at all?" Oren thought to himself, "It's a long story. Just making it back alive to tell you is a relief." He immediately turned on the drama, crying and grabbing his father. "Wah! Oh, my dear father! When I reached the merchant village, I was swindled by a goblin who had conspired with Theo, and I ended up losing all my money." Israel tried to pick out the meaningful words amidst his son's sobbing and asked, "Theo, are you talking about that naive yellow cat, your childhood friend? How could such a kitten guy swindle you?" Before his father could say more, Oren tossed aside his sobbing act and shouted, "Kind? He's an extremely wicked guy. I explained that I needed to buy food for the villagers, but they forced me into a contract and made me work for them. And there's someone else controlling them from behind, someone who calls himself the Black Dragon, though he has no horns or wings, and he's even managed to deceive the rabbit tribe into working under him with his threats and lies." Oren spun the prehistoric farm into a tragic saga, turning Theo into a demonic cat and the poor rabbits into oppressed souls needing rescue. And himself? He was the one exposing it all, hoping to find someone to bring justice. Bang! The table in the living room split in half, making father and son jump. Hegel had slammed it, smashing it to bits, and clenched his fist with a glower as he asked Oren, "You're not lying, are you?" Even Oren's father was shocked. What did the table do to deserve this? But Hegel didn't care. His fury was apparent. Impersonating the great black dragon is a grave crime that deserves more than just death. Of course, the chief of a warrior tribe like Hegel wouldn't sit still hearing such news. Oren, now on both knees on the floor, vowed up and down, Yes, I'm not lying. He really called himself the Black Dragon." A thrill sparked in Oren's heart. This must be Hegel, the chief of the Black Wolves, who father always mentioned. This was definitely the famous Black Wolf tribe leader, known as a part of a race that reveres the great Black Dragon. Although he didn't know why Hegel was in his house, it was perfect. Just when he needed to complain about suspicious events, someone fit to take action was here. Oren's cunning mind quickly switched to a pleading mode, like a victim. He knelt down, clasping his paws desperately. "Lord Hegel, please defeat that vile Theo and the mastermind behind him, impersonating the great black dragon, and is engaging in these despicable acts. They deserve punishment." With just a few persuasive words, Hegel quickly agreed. He stood up and told Oren to lead the way. "I'll see for myself and make the judgment." His father hadn't even had a chance to say anything before the son realized his success. He had lured Hegel onto his side. A sly grin crept across the black cat's face as he prepared his revenge plan, when suddenly the living room door swung open. "Sir Israel, there's a guest outside." No need to say, Oren knew exactly who it was. He rushed over to his father and whispered, "Just in time, father. They're here. I'll go out and face them first." "But first," he asked, "you still have that thing in the warehouse, right?" Israel was confused at first, then slowly caught on. "What do you mean? Don't tell me?" He. Oren laughed mischievously, thinking about that thing, the one he needed most right now. He already had the plan in mind. After all, this was his home turf. "Oren, come out here, nya! Oren, nya!" Theo's voice echoed outside, almost like a debt collector calling. He stood outside, calling for Oren, but didn't step in. After a while of calling with no response, the silver wolves beside him raised their heads, staying alert, while Theo wondered, why is no one answering? Not a single cat is even coming out to greet us. Elka, feeling his time was wasted, suggested they just barge in. Theo put his hands on his hips, glaring. That would be rude, nya. According to formal customs, maybe, but talking about manners with Oren might just make him roll on the floor laughing. The cat's ways were more like a thug's than a rich family's young master. The silver wolves saw no point in politeness with a scoundrel who'd run away and were just trying to convince Theo when the mansion doors finally opened, revealing the smirking young lord. Oren strolled out, dressed in a fancy new outfit, striking a confident pose and greeting them with a sneer. Just the thought of you lowly bastard following me all the way here makes me want to applaud. Welcome to my mansion. What? Theo's ears burned. To be exact, it's your father's mansion, not yours, isn't it, Nya? The black cat flared up. Well, it'll be mine soon enough. What do you know? Not only was Oren shamelessly relying on his father, but he used that privilege to criticize Theo and his crew. You treated me like a slave, didn't you? Here, you won't be able to do that anymore, Theo. He pointed down, emphasizing that this was his land, and there was no chance he'd take orders here. But in Theo's eyes, he was just a clueless cat who didn't understand employment contracts. You're still an intern bound by contract, Iona reminded him. Contracts made in the tower have absolute power. If you don't fulfill, you'll be punished severely. Seeing Oren's blank stare, Theo opened the contract and read aloud. If you don't come here immediately, the contract will be extended for another 30 days, okay? Oren, though loud-mouthed, was still wary of the tower's contracts. He was about to start wailing, but suddenly remembered he was standing on his own land. Clearing his throat, he tried to regain his confidence. Ahem, may I have a look at that contract to see what it says? Playing it cool again, Theo raised an eyebrow. If you want, open your own status window and look, Nya. Who's going to fetch the contract for you? Oren felt embarrassed and retorted loudly. I just wanted to check if they are the same, in case of any mistakes. He grinned, moving closer to Theo, adding, besides, it can be for a brief moment. It'll be over in a flash. Without suspicion, Theo was opening the contract to show him, unaware of the small bottle hidden behind Oren's expensive new clothes. He swiftly pulled out a small green vial, popped the cork with a claw, and grinned wickedly, ready to splash its contents onto Theo. The move was fast and well planned, but Elka's sharp ears caught the sound. The silver wolf, alarmed, lunged forward, shouting, Boss Theo! Theo turned in surprise, not realizing Oren was close enough to splash the green liquid all over him. Keke, take this! Just by looking at its color, it was clear the stuff was nasty. Theo was too close to dodge, and all he could do was scream in shock, his voice filled with helplessness. But just as he closed his eyes to brace himself, the green liquid splashed onto a blue barrier that had formed right in front of him, stopping it from touching him. Both Oren and Theo were stunned. A magical shield had somehow wrapped around the orange cat, leaving the green liquid to slide down the barrier. A protection spell? The black cat hadn't anticipated this. He'd calculated every move so carefully, and the distance had been perfect too. Theo, realizing Oren's plot, yelled furiously, How dare you try to dump that stuff on me, huh? In an instant, the wind by Oren's ears seemed to split into two as something came hurtling toward him at an incredible speed. The chief Elka's eyes lit up like spotlights, and he lunged forward, his forelegs slamming the ground with such force that Oren had to leap aside, barely dodging what could have been his end. In his panicked scramble, he lost his balance, tumbling and rolling before slamming his back into the staircase, groaning in pain as he sprawled across the floor, wailing miserably like he was owed something. I failed, he yelled out in fury, a mix of helplessness and bitterness in his voice. Even more surprising, not far from his face, the magician hamster was holding up the empty vial, clearly stating the name of the liquid he'd just tried to use. It was a contract nullification potion. When sprayed on the opponent's status window, the contract materializes itself immediately, and the agreement can be nullified. So you had such a precious item in your hands. What a pity. It's all wasted now. The swipe just now was merely a warning. If Elka had wanted to hit the cat, there'd be no challenge in it. The chief had had enough of this sneaky feline and was ready to let him have it. Oren, exposed and furious, shouted back, Shut up! But Theo wasn't about to be quiet. Oh, Oren, you're a real jerk. Just so you know, this contract doesn't just extend 30 days. Got it? Cornered with nowhere left to turn, Oren's recklessness outweighed his sense. With a final, desperate move, he reached out and grabbed the little hamster, yanking her toward him. Iona looked surprised but showed no fear as the black cat's claws closed around her. Oren tightened his grip, baring his claws and threatening Theo and the others. Everyone, stand still, he ordered, his voice trembling with fear, yet defiant. If you don't nullify the contract, this little magical rat will die right here. Theo gaped, unable to believe the black cat would actually go this far. Not just foolish, but vicious. Theo pounded on the magical barrier in frustration, yelling, "Oren, what are you doing? Release Iona now!" He kept banging, but the barrier wouldn't budge, trapping them inside and stoking his anger. Outside, Elka bared his teeth, growling, "I thought you knew that you'll die immediately if you harm Iona, don't you?" Oren wasn't one to be unafraid of death. He feared hunger and death more than anything, having lived a spoiled life. There was no way he'd actually kill Iona and face the consequences. Yet, he managed to grin. "Keke, don't move. Think I won't do it?" His sharp claws hovered over the hamster's face as he spoke in a low, menacing tone. "Why would I make a move like this if I didn't have a backup plan, don't you think? Come on out and smash these fools to bits, Lord Hagel." Oren yelled toward the main door, still clutching Iona. The mention of Hagel heightened the tension, with the silver wolves preparing for a fight. Theo knew by now that the troublemaker had some sort of plan in mind, but in response to Oren's shout, there was only a strange silence. No one answered, no footsteps, not even a creak from the door, as if his call had simply faded into the void. The cat couldn't believe it and raised his voice again. "Lord Hagel? Why aren't you coming out, Lord Hagel?" He was confused, but still kept his claws at Iona's face, while she began to smirk, finding the situation amusing. "So, you were counting on Hagel to fight us for you?" Iona's calm remark infuriated Oren. He threatened, "Shut up!" But at that very moment, he felt something strange and widened his eyes in disbelief. "What? Why can't I move?" He was frozen like a statue, unable to budge a single claw. Meanwhile, Iona calmly slipped out of his grip, setting her feet firmly on the ground. "I cast a paralyzing spell on you. You won't be moving for a while." She picked up her staff, showing that even without it she held the advantage. "Did you really think I was weak just because I'm small?" she sneered. "Q, you're gravely mistaken, black cat." At that moment, Oren truly began to feel fear, sweat pouring down his now pale face. Iona looked back at him with sheer contempt. "I am Archmay Iona, leader of the Magician Association. I believe you know that you have to pay the price for undermining me and betraying Theo." Her eyes glowed with a fierce light, and she pointed her staff at Oren's throat, leaving him too terrified to utter a single word. Now, he realized he had messed with something he couldn't handle. Archmage? In this dark tower, there was only one Archmage, and it was the little rat right before his eyes. What on earth is that jerk Theo's connection to her? Though still on guard, the Silver Wolves and Theo relaxed slightly. They might now have a chance to witness the power from Archmage Iona that none of them had ever seen before. Rewinding time a few minutes before Oren, the brat, got his acupressure point hit. He hadn't given up even though he'd called out multiple times and no backup showed. Holding Iona in his arms, he kept shouting toward the house, "Do something, Lord Hagel! Teach these bastards a lesson right now." But as no response came, Oren started to waver. From boldly ranting earlier, now he could only weakly call out Hagel's name. "For crying out loud, even my father's in there! Why does this feel like calling into a haunted house?" His voice echoed louder. "Lord Hagel, come out and deal with these scoundrels already." Everyone in the mansion could hear Oren's cries. Hagel peeked out from a window, watching the panicking black cat below, and found himself panicking too. "Damn it, the brat doesn't know," he cursed silently. Still, he did nothing, until Izarel, puzzled by his inaction, approached. Lord Hagel, my son's calling for you. Why don't you answer?" From below, Oren's voice kept ringing out. But when Izarel looked through the window, he immediately understood why Hagel stayed rooted to the spot, drenched in sweat. Good heavens, that's the head of the Magicians Guild. My son's doomed, Izarel thought, despairing. Hagel knew he was neck-deep in trouble now. The brat had only said he needed to teach some impostor of the Black Dragon a lesson. He hadn't mentioned Iona being there, so the Black Wolf clan chief stayed silent until Oren was subdued by Iona, his whole body paralyzed. The brat had called him out by name, leaving Hagel with no choice but to show himself. Furious, Hagel cursed inwardly. "That little bastard Oren's made me look like a clown." Meanwhile, Iona aimed her staff at the insolent cat, already aware he'd been calling for backup. She'd been waiting for that backup to appear. "Hagel, is that you in there? I can sense you, so quit hiding and show yourself." Unable to conceal himself any longer, a massive red shadow darted from a side door of the mansion. In just a second, Hagel stood a short distance away from both Oren and Iona. The Black Wolf clan chief's intimidating presence couldn't be denied, but the moment he appeared, he was on all fours, frozen stiff, not daring to utter a word. Elka was stunned to see the Black Wolf clan chief emerge, more so because he leapt out of Oren's father's house. Noticing Elka's worried expression, Theo tilted his head up and asked, "You know that guy?" Still staring, Elka replied, "Yes, he's a high-level freelance mercenary, very famous in our world. But what's he doing here? And what's his connection to Lady Iona?" Elka had noticed Iona's commanding tone. It was clear the two knew each other. Whether their relationship ran deep remained to be seen. Kneeling respectfully, Hagel's deep voice rumbled, "I humbly greet you, Lady Iona." The mouse woman seemed pleased by his demeanor and responded in a softer, more courteous tone. "It's been a while, hasn't it, Hegel? What's going on here? Explain this mess to me." She pointed at the black cat, who was struggling to twitch his fingers. Though phrased as a question, her words carried an accusation. "You're trying to kill me on orders from that brat, aren't you?" Both Hegel and Oren were equally flustered. Even if the Archmage was right, they couldn't admit to it. No, of course not," Hegel stammered. I didn't even know you were here. I was tricked by him." It was obvious from his attitude that not only did the two know each other, but Hegel was clearly inferior to Iona. Theo and Elka quickly caught on. "So Lady Iona's the one who hired Hegel? Is this the person she came to meet in Grana village? Huh?" No one had expected things to escalate to this point, but anyone who had roamed the tower knew of Archmage Iona and her capabilities. It was clear Oren was done for. Israel dashed out of the mansion in a panic, desperate to save his son. Oh heavens, I didn't expect the Archmage to come to such a humble place. When Iona asked who he was, he hurriedly replied, "I'm Oren's father." Then, without hesitation, he smacked his son on the head, scolding him to vent her anger. "You fool! How could you cause this much trouble?" "I ought to." Before he could finish, the mouse woman pointed her staff at him and cast the same freezing spell she'd used on his son. Now both father and son stood rigid like statues, unable to utter a word. Iona, initially appeased by Hegel's respectful attitude, was now thoroughly annoyed. "You're too noisy. Just stay quiet there until I'm done here, Q." Leaving the frozen father and son behind, she turned her sharp gaze on the Black Wolf clan chief. "Hegel, I've heard about you on my way here. It seems you failed the task I assigned to you." Her impatience left Hegel with no room to wiggle out of it. Bowing his head in defeat, he admitted, "Yes, we failed to subdue the frogs." The Silver Wolf clan remained silent, observing the scene, while Theo, as always, made his presence known with his chatter. "Ah, you're talking about the frogs swarming all over Lake Zenka, aren't you?" "Ah?" Theo chimed in. At that, Iona began to explain. "Not long ago, we discovered something abnormal in the tower. A force from another world seems to be leaking in from somewhere, concentrating at the center of Lake Zenka. The cause lies in the unusual reproduction of the frog queen's eggs, which suddenly skyrocketed in numbers. Normally, if the frogs only laid a bit more than usual, the cats in Grana village could handle it. But this anomaly has made the situation much worse. Left unchecked, it could lead to the extinction of all aquatic life on the 55th floor. That's why we needed to act." Turning to the Silver Wolves, Iona continued, "Originally, I was supposed to handle this myself, but the magic tower is currently occupied with dealing with the red locust plague on the 67th floor, so I entrusted this task to Hegel. As for how that turned out, there's no need to even ask." Her disdainful glare landed on the Black Wolf clan chief, who still didn't dare lift his head. Hegel could only admit, "I have no excuses. By the time we arrived, thousands of frogs had already hatched. We tried our best to deal with them, but there were simply too many, and our ability to fight underwater is limited." "No excuses, yet here you are full of them," Iona erupted, her voice sharp and furious. "You expect me to believe that? Ah, you're hopeless." Her rage only grew, spilling out in an unrelenting tirade. "Wasn't this a relatively simple task from the beginning? All you had to do was get into the underwater cave early and take care of the eggs. That's it. And yet you couldn't even manage that. Now the entire village is suffering because of your failure." Hegel bowed his head lower with each scolding word, finally managing to mutter weakly, "We did go on the day we planned, but they'd already hatched." Iona didn't even let him finish. You should have moved faster. You should have figured out their patterns earlier." "Hegel," she snapped, calling his name. Then, without a second's hesitation, she soared into the air, her fury carrying her upwards. Channeling her anger, she conjured a massive, swirling fireball, its searing heat pulling in all the light from the sky above. Darkness spread across the heavens as the sphere of flames grew. "Excuses are crimes. Do you understand that?" she shouted, her fiery aura fully manifesting. The adorable demeanor she once had was gone. Iona's eyes glowed fiercely, a blazing ring of fire hovering above her head. She was ready to punish those responsible. "Take your punishment. You and those ungrateful cats, too." By now, not only Oren, but also his father Israel, were trembling in fear. tears streaming down their faces. Israel, still frozen by Iona's magic, could only weep silently as he wanted to scream at his son, "What have you done to bring us to this?" But no words could escape him. Iona's wrath was terrifying. The fireball expanded further, its heat radiating down to those gathered below. Her declaration thundered into their ears, "I will destroy this entire place." Consumed by her rage, Iona no longer cared about anyone, neither the silver wolves nor the cats below. Elka was panicked. That kind of energy could hurt us too. Theo, equally alarmed, pounded on the protective barrier around him. He was safe inside it for now, but letting Iona go through with this was unthinkable. "Iona, stop it! Ah, Iona, can you hear me?" Clearly she couldn't. Lost in her fury, Iona poured everything into the fireball, its formation nearing completion. Theo grew desperate, banging harder on the barrier and calling her name again. "Iona!" Still no response. But then, unexpectedly, a cracking sound echoed from the barrier under Theo's hand. Surprised, he realized Iona's powerful magic was straining the barrier, weakening it. There was a chance. High in the air, Iona completed her gigantic fireball, her voice ringing out, "Vanish into the flames." Just as she prepared to hurl it down, someone suddenly stepped on Elka's back. In a blur of speed, the figure dashed up Elka's body and launched into the sky. Only then did the silver wolves realize it was Theo. The cat had leaped with claws extended, shooting toward Iona. The air was filled with sparks, grazing Theo's fur, but he didn't feel a thing. Closing the distance, his face came so close to hers that Iona finally noticed him. "Theo?" she muttered, startled. But before she could react, Theo's leap faltered, and he began to fall. This was his limit. Yet in that crucial moment, he reached out and grabbed hold of Iona's staff, clinging to it as he dangled midair. Iona gripped the staff tightly with both hands to keep it from slipping, eyes shut tight as she yelled, "What do you think you're doing, Theo?" Only one paw of the cat managed to grab on, while the rest of its body flailed below like someone drowning who had found a straw to cling to. Its mouth screamed out loud, "I'm going to fall! I'm going to fall! Meow!" Struggling for a while, Theo managed to get his other paw onto the stick, but Iona resisted as if wanting him to fall. "You're a cat. Falling from this height won't harm you, will it?" Well, that was true, but Theo wasn't convinced. "It's not safe, meow. Everyone will be dragged into the attack and put in danger, meow," he cried out in panic. Seeing that Iona seemed not to understand his point, Theo shouted again, "Are you going to let me face danger, meow?" The mouse looked at Theo, and in a brief moment made her decision. No! The fury in her round eyes was gone entirely. Iona glanced up at the massive fiery vortex spinning above and suddenly said, "Because you're the servant of the Black Dragon." The reason was so simple and unexpected that Theo gaped in shock, unable to respond before the mouse acted. With a casual snap of her fingers, the fireball overhead instantly shrank at its core and then exploded with a boom, dissipating midair. Within seconds, the entire fiery mass disappeared, leaving only faint traces and harmless sparks. Everyone let out a cheer, both relieved and amazed at how quickly such a massive attack was undone. More accurately, Iona had just reversed time with her magic. The leader of the Black Wolf clan had an entirely different thought. He had managed to stop an enraged Iona, something no one dared to do, and even made her withdraw her offensive spell. Iona then gently lowered Theo to the ground. Her face showed a pure delight, as if she had just been playing around with the orange cat earlier. The two of them landed, laughing and joking, which puzzled Hegel even more. Was that cat really the servant of the Black Dragon? Such an ordinary-looking cat? With the fear gone, Elka stepped up to praise. "You really surprised us, Boss Theo. I never thought you'd step on my head to jump." This cat was far braver than anyone had imagined, and quite daring too. Theo laughed in response. "If it weren't for you, Elka, I couldn't have reached Iona. Meow!" Thinking back on what had just happened, he realized how much he had risked. Now that he had some leisure time, he wiped the sweat off his forehead in relief. "Phew, I almost missed out on the 1,000 tower coins from Orin. Meow!" That made Iona burst out laughing. "You stopped me just for a few measly coins?" Now that things were safe, the quest for those 1,000 coins suddenly became the main reason. "No, meow, I need to get more money from that rebel who disobeyed orders. Meow!" Seeing the father and son duo crying tears of joy for surviving, Theo knew he could get more than just money. That rich guy must have brought along plenty of treasures, like the potion that nullified contracts. "Meow!" he whispered conspiratorially to the mouse. "What do you think, Meow? Want to join me in looting that bastard's treasure, Meow? Isn't that the perfect price for their crimes, Meow?" Such childish plotting made Iona giggle. The mouse immediately agreed. knowing full well that the father and son would comply with anything in their current state. "Let's go," she said, stepping inside, not forgetting to dispel the magic on the two cats. Looting time officially began. As they entered, everyone gasped in amazement. The Silver Wolf clan lived in tents like nomads, and Theo, from a humble village like Grana, was equally stunned by Israel's lavish estate. But even Iona hadn't expected the place to be so grand and magnificent. "Wow, this is perfect for looting." The group passed through a room filled with paintings and display cases that held shiny antique treasures. The golden light illuminated high-quality weapons that had been collected over centuries. For the wolves, this was even better than finding gold. While Elke and Elko rummaged through other items, Theo perched atop the clan leader, directing the team to pour all the gold and jewels into a spatial bag. The treasures were stacked chest upon chest, the clinking sound of riches utterly satisfying. "Elka, take these. Meow. Let's sell them all in the merchant village." Israel clutched his head in despair, muttering softly, "Oh heavens," but dared not intervene. Money didn't interest Iona, nor did weapons. But something here caught the powerful archmage's attention. "How are there so many rare magical books here?" The bookshelf held hundreds of pristine tomes, neatly organized. At a glance, Iona looked like a bookworm who had stumbled upon a priceless library, marveling at the sight. Rarely was she so impressed. Israel stepped forward and explained, "I have a passion for collecting ancient books. You may take anything you wish." They had already made the offer. How could she refuse? Iona cleared her throat, putting on an air of politeness. "These precious things, huh? Well then, I won't say no." One second, she was all modest and courteous. The next, she was eagerly gliding through the bookshelves, using magic to pull out rare volumes, marveling as she went. Oh my, this is the compilation of cage birds. And look here, the Lagna dragon. Oh wow, Q, the first basic magic. Oh goodness, I must have this." Israel was speechless. She only invited her to browse for fun, expecting Iona might shyly take one or two books. Who would have thought she'd turn the place upside down and still not be done? Theo even leapt down himself, clutching a necklace that looked expensive. Grinning wide, he was about to show it off when Hegel approached respectfully. "My lord, do you have a moment?" Theo jumped out of his skin, utterly baffled as to why the Black Wolf tribe's leader wanted to speak to him. "Me?" Seeing Theo's suspicious expression, Hegel decided to get straight to the point, even though he still felt hesitant. "Lord Theo." Dropping to the ground, Hegel shouted loudly, "Please accept the Black Wolf tribe as your subordinates." This time, the little cat was so shocked he dropped the necklace, letting out a loud, "Meow!" "What? Why all of a sudden?" he stammered, flustered, wanting nothing more than to retreat. In Theo's eyes, the Black Wolf tribe was still something extremely dangerous. And most importantly, why on earth would they want to be his subordinates? While the lower levels bustled with chaos, the 99th floor was peaceful. Inside the black tower at the center of the area, Aileen stretched lazily after a long nap. The dragoness let out a hearty laugh. "That was a good sleep. I feel so refreshed now." The moment she woke up, she started wondering what her beloved Seijin was doing. She summoned the crystal orb in her hand, eager to see him right away. But instead of showing Seijin, the orb emitted strange buzzing noises. Its purple hue began to shift to red, and suddenly, countless notifications exploded out of it, overlapping chaotically. The shortest ones read, "You have 1,000 unread warnings. Please review them." Aileen just felt annoyed. "I only ignored it for a day, and now it's nagging me already? What's the big deal?" she grumbled, dismissing the notifications as spam. Without reading a single one, she hit the button to delete them all, tossing the warnings into the trash bin. "I don't have time for this right now. I need to find out where Seijin is." With the red hue gone, Aileen levitated the orb between her hands. "Show me what I want to see." This time, the orb didn't just show Seijin within its glow, it projected a full aerial view of the farm, stretching across her vision. The rows of crops sprawled out below. "Thanks to my dragon heart's recovery, the orb's display is much bigger now," she noted proudly. But while a larger screen was great, the farm was so expansive that she couldn't spot Seijin anywhere. She scanned left, then right, moving the view back and forth, but he was nowhere to be seen. Even the house was empty, except for his red-haired kid running around the yard. Everyone must have been out working on the farm, and Kwang seemed to be practicing martial arts. Aileen found it amusing, watching the little one swing a stick around with such a serious face. "How adorable," she giggled. Just as she was about to move on to keep searching for Seijin, something made her pause. Her eyes narrowed with curiosity, staring intently at Kwang as he happily spun the stick faster and faster. Is that what I think it is? She wondered. By now, the little red panda had gotten much more skilled, handling the improvised weapon with ease. A notification popped up beside her. Kwong noticed her watching and waved cheerfully. Did you sleep well, Sister Eileen? The notification displayed his answer immediately. The tower manager asks, what is that suspicious-looking stick you're holding? Oh, this? The little one replied, holding it up proudly. It's a branch from a mutated tree that absorbed the energy of the blue moon. Aileen nearly jumped out of her skin. A mutated tree that absorbed blue moon energy? Such a thing exists? The monsters on the 99th floor must have had a tough time dealing with it. She fired off a string of questions, but quickly remembered something and asked, how did everyone manage to defeat it? Well, we met your father and grandfather through the stone statue you gave us, Kwong said excitedly, gesturing dramatically. Grandpa appeared in a flash, then whoosh, flew up high. He was so cool, going bam 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 and shooting out beams of light, taking them down. Listening to the story, Eileen's face turned skeptical. Through the stone statue? I sleep for one night and I'm already out of the loop? But her confusion quickly turned to glee as realization struck. Grandpa did that? Grandpa showed up to help my crush? So my family already knows about him? Seeing the cat stunned, taking a few steps back, Hegel thought it hadn't heard him clearly, so he repeated loudly, Sir Theo, please accept our Black Wolf clan as your subordinates. Theo looked visibly flustered, stammering as he awkwardly asked, why so sudden, Mia? He wasn't prepared for this. Now the cat seemed more panicked than when it realized the Black Wolf chieftain was present. Meanwhile, from behind, Elka approached to eavesdrop. Still kneeling on the floor, Hegel began speaking slowly. For a very long time, our people have revered the Black Dragon. By being under you, who is an underling of the Black Dragon, we can get just a tiny bit closer to the Black Dragon, and there'll be no greater honor for us than that. After finishing, Hegel concluded earnestly, so we ask this of you, Sir Lord Theo. Ah, so that's what it was. Theo finally understood, and the fear melted away, replaced by the confident expression it wore daily, a signature Theo look. Crossing its arms and pursing its lips, the cat paused for dramatic effect. Letting the Black Wolf chieftain stew in suspense for a few seconds, it then responded bluntly, nope, nya. The wolf jolted up in shock, unable to believe its ears. Calling Theo Sir Lord was a misstep. Now the cat looked like a capitalist scrutinizing every minor flaw. He wasn't even their boss yet and already found fault. Didn't you fail to complete Iona's task and make her angry, Mia? Seems like you're pretty incompetent. I don't need any underlings who can't get things done, you know, Nia. Criticized so directly, Hegel rose slightly, trying to show its sincerity to Sir Lord Theo. That matter, we have no excuse for it. But didn't you even take Orin as your underling? He gestured toward Orin, still sobbing pitifully nearby, likely deeply regretting his failure. Not only failing to rescue himself, but also dragging his father into a shameless plundering. Orin is different. His family is rich, so he was of help. Nya, Theo remarked. Elka, having only come to observe out of curiosity, decided to leave to gather more loot. But before he could walk away, Theo asked if everything had been taken yet. The chieftain confirmed, yes, Sir Theo. Theo immediately ordered, take everything to the village and share it with the cats, Nya. Seeing Theo preparing to leave, Hegel called out hastily, Sir Theo! Desperately trying to find the right words to persuade the cat, Hegel seemed like a merchant begging a seasoned shopper not to walk away. Theo, well aware he was about to be called back, acted like an experienced Asian mother at the market, saying just enough to ensure the seller would plead, fine, I'll sell it to you at a loss. Sighing dramatically, Theo softened his voice and said, I'll stay here a few more days, Nia. During that time, find me something I like. If I like it, I'll take you under me, Nia. His face turned mischievous as he tossed a finger to himself, adding for emphasis, and everyone, including your underlings too. Even with one eye, Hegel could see clearly that an opportunity had opened for himself and the entire Black Wolf clan. He was ecstatic, nearly grinning from ear to ear, but quickly bowed his head and placed a hand over its chest in reverence. Thank you, Sir Theo. We'll make sure not to disappoint you. Theo nodded in satisfaction, clearly looking forward to the clan leader's performance. Perhaps after today's events, only Orin and his father would feel unlucky. For everyone else, it was a beautiful day. Under the eternally clear blue sky of the 99th floor, Seijun was carefully inspecting the seed of the demon tree, scrutinizing every nook and cranny of it. Under the sunlight, it reflected a shimmer, making the blue hue even more beautiful. This made Seijun hesitant, I think I might get a stomachache if I eat something that glows faintly like this, he thought. Aside from some toppings in bubble tea, anything blue and shiny didn't look appetizing at all. But the dragon had told him he should eat it to absorb its power. Still, the appearance made him second guess, so he held it out to Flame, asking her opinion. When it came to things containing mana, Flame seemed to have the answers. The little spirit examined the seed, which was half her size, and informed her master, I can sense dark energy coming from it. See? Dark energy. And they want me to swallow it? Who knows if it'll grow into a tree in my stomach or turn me into some mutated version of myself. Seijin grimaced. Can you purify this seed with the flame of purification? He asked. If you purify it and we plant it, then what? An uncorrupted Ent will be born, she exclaimed, clenching her fists with excitement. That's a really good idea, Master. I'll give it a try. The farmer agreed immediately, placing the seed on a thick cushion inside a basket of green onions, giving Flame some space to use her flame of purification. A group of gray bunny kids, overhearing something interesting, ran over to watch, gathering behind Flame and Seijin in anticipation. This is fine, Flame assessed, then got straight to work. She flicked her hand, summoning the flame of purification, which quickly enveloped the seed. A loud whoosh roared like a gust of wind as the flame flared up, rising nearly a meter high. After a while, the flame shrank, gradually dimming into a soft glow surrounding the seed. When it ended, a system notification popped up with an item description. Now, the seed was a corrupted Ent's enhanced seed with a purification rate of 1%. Even though the number was small, it clearly worked. Seijin cheered. It's working, Flame. If we keep purifying it like this, there is a possibility. The little spirit was overjoyed too. Nothing made her happier than knowing her powers were useful and effective. Even though there were still about 99 more rounds of purification to go, Flame was thrilled. But how long would it take to purify it fully? Instead of repeating 99 short bursts like before, Seijun asked, Can you use the flame of purification for a longer duration? She replied earnestly, I think my power will recharge after a few days. Then, I can use the flame of purification again. Flame's enthusiastic response made Seijun feel incredibly satisfied. He reached out to pat the apple tree branch, as if patting her head, grinning with praise. You're so reliable, Flame, and super capable too. Touching the spirit's head didn't have much of a feel, but patting the apple tree made Flame giggle happily. Her master was so kind, always praising her, and even patting her head. Suddenly, a notification popped up with a ding sound next to Seijun. It wasn't a message from Eileen, but an alert that the seed shop had opened. Seijun cheered with excitement. It only opened once every 30 days, and this month had been so packed with events that he'd almost forgotten. He always looked forward to this day, especially now that he had a decent amount of gold coins to choose and buy what he wanted. 3 smaller notifications appeared in quick succession. Park Seijun's grade, normal, showing 4 types of seeds to be sold to you at random. You are allowed to use at most 5 tower coin with your current grade. Then 4 boxes popped up, showing the prices and names of the seeds for him to consider. The first option was 50 black bean seeds for 5 tower coins. The second was 100 radish seeds for just 1 tower coin. The most expensive was 25 pumpkin seeds for 5 tower coins, and the cheapest option was 500 onion seeds, also for 5 tower coins. Even though Seijun had made money selling his farm produce, he was still shocked enough to gape at the prices. Huh? Why are they so much more expensive than the last time the seed shop opened? He remembered that 100 radish seeds only cost 0.1 tower coins before. Now it had skyrocketed to a full 1 tower coin, 10 times higher. A gray bunny chimed in. Peek! It's probably because of what's happening on the 67th floor, Uncle. Seijun blinked in confusion. You mean the battle with the red locusts on the 67th floor? What does that have to do with this? I'm on the 99th floor, and this is a seed shop system. How are they related? The bunny explained. Back when the Red Ribbon Kingdom on our floor fell to the red locusts, the whole tower faced a severe food supply shortage because our floor was the biggest grain producer. That led to a terrible famine. Just recalling it made both bunny kids shiver. It happened a long time ago, but when people heard about the battle on the 67th floor, residents of many floors who experienced that famine started hoarding food supplies in large quantities immediately. But if people are just stockpiling food, it's not a huge problem. The real issue is grid. That great landlord on the 55th floor, who benefited during the last famine, definitely won't miss this chance. He's likely plotting a scheme to accelerate the skyrocketing food prices further. Peak. That guy Grid, who has loads of money, might already be hoarding massive supplies in his storage. Once the food supply runs out, he'll sell it at exorbitant prices. He'll get richer while others can't afford anything. The bunny added, "It seems like the 99th floor is already feeling the effects, Uncle Peek." The two bunny kids explained their worries, and though Seijin didn't want to admit it, he had to agree. "You're right, I've heard about this situation before." The wolves also mentioned that this battle won't end easily. Because Seijin's farm already produced food, he hadn't been directly affected, until now, when the skyrocketing seed prices hit him hard. The main solution was to end the battle on the 67th floor. But how? His blade green onions were no longer as effective as before. Planting them in bulk wasn't going to cut it anymore. There must be a better way. I need to think of a solution. But for now, there was a more pressing decision to make. What should I buy? Seijin stared at the options, weighing his choices. If he bought 2 types of seeds, it would exceed the 5 tower coin limit, so he could only pick one. Black beans seem a bit vague. There aren't many dishes for them. Just radishes? Eating radish by itself doesn't feel right, does it? Pumpkins? I already have carrots and sweet potatoes, which are similar. Onions it is. As soon as he tapped to purchase the onion seeds, the system notified him, "You have successfully purchased 500 onion seeds." A total of 5 tower coins were deducted from Park Seijin's seed bank account, and he was rewarded with 50 seed shop points. You now have a total of 106 seed shop points. Thank you for using the seed shop. Immediately after the final notification, another message popped up. You will be able to access level 2 of the seed shop in 30 days. A small red pouch tied with a ribbon dropped into Seijin's hands. The feeling of holding a new seed still gave him the same thrill as before. Looking down at Red Flame, Seijin explained, "Onions remove fishy odors and add sweetness, so they work well in most dishes. This will definitely be helpful." Although she couldn't eat it herself, Flame's eyes sparkled as she listened. "It sounds delicious," she exclaimed. Just as Seijin was about to plant the seeds in excitement, another notification popped up, a message from the tower manager. Smiling, he greeted her. "Eileen, did you sleep well?" The tower manager replied, saying she had heard bits and pieces from Kuang. She asked, "Did you meet my father and grandfather?" Seijin nodded. "Yes, I met Sir Anton and Sir Kaiser through the stone statue you gave me." Without commenting on that, Aileen continued, "Where is that stone statue now?" Seijin answered honestly, "It's outside." After defeating the corrupted Ents, the signal suddenly cut off. Before he could say more, a deep male voice called out from above, "Park Seijin, are you inside?" Looking up, Seijin saw the silhouette of a dragon at the mouth of the cave. It sounded just like Sir Kaiser. He must be possessing the stone statue again to summon me, Seijin thought. The message window changed abruptly. Aileen simply instructed, "Head up." Seijin, puzzled, muttered, "Huh?" Another message appeared. "Hurry." The urgency startled him. "Okay, I'm coming. Why the rush?" he grumbled, starting his climb. But as soon as he began, the notifications kept popping up, all with the same message, urging him to climb faster. Annoyed, Seijin snapped, "There's a limit to how fast I can climb, you know. Stop rushing me. I'm climbing already." As he neared the cave's entrance, the dragon's head from the stone statue loomed closer, staring at him. "Park Seijin, come quickly." "Hi, Sir Kaiser," he called out, still climbing. Before he could reach the top, another flurry of notifications appeared, accompanied by a chorus of ting, 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 ting. But this time, they weren't for him. Excitedly, Aileen's voice echoed through the messages. "Grandpa, Grandpa, Grandpa, I've missed you so much." The flood of blue message windows suddenly blinded Seijin. Panicked, he yelled, "Aileen, I can't see anything because of the status window screens." Distracted, he slipped on the green onion rope and lost his grip. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. Realizing he was falling from a dangerous height, Seijin opened his mouth to scream in sheer terror. But before he hit the ground, a claw gripped his ankle tightly, suspending him in midair. He dangled helplessly, shaken but unharmed. Kaiser pulled him back to solid ground, but didn't bother setting him down properly. Instead, the dragon held him upside down like a toy. Another notification popped up. The tower manager asks if you're okay. Seijin could only stammer in response. "I'm still alive." As Kaiser lifted him to eye level, the dragon glanced at the tiny notification windows curiously. "These windows, are they, Eileen?" "Yes, Sir Kaiser," Seijin replied, still hanging upside down. He waved his hands to push aside the overlapping windows, trying to read what Aileen had been saying amidst the chaos. Most of it was just her urging him to climb faster. "Aileen, why didn't you send these messages to Sir Kaiser directly? Why did you send them to me?" Seijin asked in frustration. Before Aileen could answer, the stone dragon began to weep dramatically. Tears streamed down as Kaiser pulled Sejin closer, rubbing their faces together like an emotional reunion scene. Aileen, my dear granddaughter, can you see your grandpa? It's been so long. Are you sick anywhere? It's such a relief to hear about you, at least this way. Sejin felt like a doll possessed by Aileen's spirit as Kaiser coddled him. He shouted in protest, "Sir Kaiser, you're a stone. It hurts a lot. Feel like you're going to grind my face off. Grandfather!" But the dragon didn't listen. Sejin's screams echoed throughout the prehistoric cave. Down below, Father Rabbit found a familiar straw hat and asked, "What's that screaming sound? And what's with this hat?" Mother Rabbit shrugged. "I don't know, but it's probably nothing." Their golden-furred kits toddled along behind them, helping with chores. For them, it was just another ordinary day on the 99th floor. Eventually, Sejin's cries subsided, thanks to the calm intervention of Sir Anton, who temporarily took over the stone dragon to speak. Clearing his throat, Anton explained slowly, "Our physical bodies aren't here, so Aileen can't send messages to us through the status windows." Father Rabbit climbed up and handed Sejin the straw hat, knowing full well that Sejin would never willingly take it off unless forced. Once the hat was securely back on his head, Anton continued explaining. "Even if Aileen can hear and see us, she can't communicate with us directly. Instead, you or other monsters have to relay our messages indirectly." Sejin, adjusting his hat, muttered about how overly complicated everything seemed. "We're out here breaking our backs every day. Who has the time to stop and play messenger whenever a notification pops up?" From behind her screen, Aileen seemed eager to ask more questions. It had been such a long time since she'd been able to connect with her family. "So, are you saying the tower gate isn't opening because of some internal system issue with the tower?" she asked. "I thought it was because I wasn't strong enough or something." "Well, it's half true," Anton replied. "If your magic power were stronger, you could unlock more features as an administrator, but with your current strength, it would be difficult." "This is hard," Aileen admitted. "So what now?" Sejin asked. "Is there another way? If you two of them can connect directly, then he wouldn't have to keep acting as the go-between." Anton sighed. "First, we need to assess the tower's condition. We have no choice but to identify and fix each problem, one at a time. Aileen, have you noticed anything unusual with the tower?" When there was no immediate response, Sejun had to nudge her. Finally, she replied, "How would I know that?" Anton stared at the notification window and pointed something out. "You can check using the crystal orb. Are there any alarms or signs of abnormal activity? Anything with unusual colors?" "Well, there are some different colors, red and blue," Aileen said nonchalantly. "But I moved all of them to the trash, though." Her words hit like a thunderbolt. Anton and Sejun both froze, their mouths agape in shock. "Trash? She put tower alarms in the trash?" Oblivious to their reactions, Aileen innocently asked, "What's with those faces?" There wasn't much they could do now. Anton couldn't bring himself to scold his daughter and awkwardly muttered, "Well, never mind. Let's investigate this slowly." It seemed that it would be a long time before Aileen's power fully awakened and she could reunite with her father and grandfather. Meanwhile, on the vibrant cherry tomato fields below, the rabbit family continued their work with cheerful determination. Because Anton couldn't talk to his daughter directly, Sejun ended up being an unwilling messenger for Aileen's dragon father. While munching through a pile of cherry tomatoes and corn, he was still stuck at the part where Anton was explaining the absolute basics to his daughter. When you switch to administrator mode, make sure you've read all the green notifications because they're super important. The dragon even used his claw to draw annotations on the ground for his clueless daughter. Sejun listened for a while and felt like he understood, so surely Aileen should too. Still, he had to double-check. "Aileen, are you getting all this?" She nodded, just as the rabbit father arrived with a glass of what seemed to be honey tomato juice. Handing it to Sejun, the rabbit suggested he take a sip. It might be a while before this lecture ended. Sejun scratched his head when Aileen claimed she understood, but didn't ask any questions. Did she really get it? Maybe it was just too much to take in all at once. Taking a sip of the drink, Sejun casually asked Anton, "What's the deal with the green notifications?" Anton explained, "The green notifications appears when a certain species of monster in the tower is at serious risk of extinction." This was new information to Sejun. He couldn't believe that even the tower's management had to worry about monster extinction. Then again, it made sense. This was a monster tower. Of course, its management had to look after the creatures within it. Anton calmly added, "The balance of this tower is more important than anything else. Our job is to ensure that most of the monsters can live harmoniously within the tower." That made Sejin think of another question. Pointing to himself, he hesitantly asked, "What about people like me who come into the tower from the outside? I heard those locusts also invaded from outside. But we are included as subjects to be managed?" It was a strange question for a regular citizen to ask whether he needed to be managed like an intruder. Anton might have found it amusing, but he still answered seriously. "No, haha, that's different. Red locusts are intruders in the tower. Why have not followed the proper procedures? They're like viruses that grow on the tower. But you, humans, received the permission to enter the tower. To talk about it, only a few lucky enough to get in, while most people live their entire lives not knowing what the inside of the tower really looks like." Sejin, who wasn't even a hunter, widened his eyes as he recalled how he ended up here. Come to think of it, he had tried to refuse but stubbornly pushed his way in anyway. Anton continued, "Humans fighting the tower's monsters and taking treasures out of the tower, these are actions authorized by the tower itself, so you don't need to worry about that. If humanity does something to disrupt the tower's order, then it becomes a different story. But so far, human power has been too insignificant to truly affect this tower." Sejin knew that well enough. Both the rabbits and Kung constantly mocked him for having no mana at all. Unable to argue, he scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. "Haha, that's true!" Suddenly, a message notification popped up next to him. The tower manager says there has been a big problem. Sejin asked immediately, "What's wrong?" Apparently, the dragon girl had been flipping through all the notifications to find a green one. She found it, but couldn't make sense of it. The last line simply read, "Danger. Blue carp in Lake Zenka are critically endangered." Aileen's face was filled with panic. How could she have accidentally trashed such an important message? Sejin was equally startled. How could it happen so fast? But then he remembered. It probably had been happening for a while, and the clueless dragon didn't even notice. Anton turned to his daughter and asked firmly, "Aileen, do you remember what I just told you?" No matter what, only the dragon girl had the ability to handle this situation. Anton had no choice but to place his trust in his daughter. Following her father's advice, Aileen boldly commanded, "Crystal orb, switch to administrator mode." Instantly, a series of notifications, large and small, appeared, smooth and steady, signaling successful activation. Next, she declared with confidence, "Appoint a middle manager." Holding her hand a short distance from the orb, she announced the candidate's name, Tower Farmer, Park Sejin. The orb spat out letters like a lottery machine until Park Sejin's name proudly appeared at the end. The appointment was complete, and a notification popped up before Sejin. It read, "The tower administrator has appointed you as a middle manager to stop the blue carp in Zenka Lake on the 75th floor from going extinct. You have acquired the mid-level manager's stigma." Before Sejin could even process this, a soft blue glow appeared on his left wrist, and a tiny black dragon insignia emerged, looking like a fresh tattoo from a street artist. Anton explained, "That's the mark that indicates your position as the tower's middle manager. You won't get into any trouble as long as you show that mark anywhere in the tower." Before Sejin could digest the information, another notification appeared, teleporting to the 75th floor's Zenka Lake in 1 minute. "I'm leaving immediately," Sejin exclaimed. He understood the situation was critical, but couldn't there at least be some training first? Flustered, he stammered, "I've never left the 99th floor before. How can I be reassigned so suddenly?" Desperate for answers, he glanced at Anton, pleading for help. "What if I have to fight an unknown monster there? What if that place is a fire pit?" Hearing his panicked tone, Anton quickly interjected, "Wait, let him bring subordinates along." "But Aileen, would you check it with the administrator mode?" Behind the notifications, Aileen frantically scrolled through a sea of admin commands, searching for the option to assign subordinates. She found it just in time. The system permitted a middle manager to leave with subordinates, but only if she designated who they were. Excited, Aileen lit up with joy. Might as well go all out, she thought, assigning every monster on the 99th floor to accompany Sejin, rabbits, minotaurs, and even Kung's mother, the most formidable of them all. She fully equipped her crush with a dream team for the mission. But alas, Aileen's enthusiasm met reality. Her mana reserves weren't even close to enough for such extravagance. A cold notification popped up. "You cannot appoint them. The tower manager's mana is lacking." Why didn't it say so earlier? Aileen panicked. At the same time, Seijin received a similar notification. The tower manager is lacking in mana, teleporting to the 75th floor's Lake Zenka in 10 seconds. Completely cornered, Eileen scrolled feverishly through the options again and settled on two of the strongest, Kwang's mom and the Minotaur King. Surely just two will work. But as fate would have it, her pitiful mana reserves couldn't handle transporting even the two mightiest beasts. A big red X appeared over their portraits, rejecting her attempt. Still, you cannot appoint them. The tower manager mana is lacking. Seijin, meanwhile, was losing it. Scratching his head and yelling at the top of his lungs, Aileen, there are only 5 seconds left. He couldn't imagine surviving Zenka Lake alone, and Aileen couldn't let her crush at such a risk. No way. With every second ticking down, Aileen's panic skyrocketed. She skimmed the list again, desperately searching for a solution. At this point, Seijin was beyond calm, clutching his head and screaming, Aileen, 3 seconds left, I'm doomed. And then, in the last 2 seconds, her dragon claw flailed and accidentally tapped the portraits of Quang and Black Rabbit. Somehow, the system accepted the appointment. They were now officially subordinates of the middle manager. Aileen had no idea how much mana she had left, but by sheer luck, her gamble worked just in time. Quang and Black Rabbit, who were peacefully harvesting green onions in the fields, suddenly saw notifications pop up above their heads. Subordinate 1 and Subordinate 2. A bright flash of light engulfed Seijin, yanking him from the 99th floor and transporting him to Zenka Lake on the 75th floor. The process was smooth, but whether he'd survive the trip was a whole other matter. Anton could only look skyward and wish the poor guy good luck. Experiencing interfloor teleportation for the first time felt a bit strange. When the notification popped up saying, "You have arrived at 75th floor's Zenka Lake," Seijin found himself falling from the sky into the area, with Black Rabbit and Quang following suit in a panic. The poor kids, still clutching their green onions, managed to land gracefully without a scratch. Unlike Seijin, who hit the ground with a painful thud, making him wonder if his 30-something spine had just given up on him. "Dad, are you okay?" Quang asked, his voice full of concern. Black Rabbit chimed in as well. "Where are we, Uncle?" Seeing the two kids with him suddenly made Seijin's back pain feel a little more bearable. He sat up with a sigh of relief. "Good thing you two came along. We're on the 75th floor. I've been appointed as a middle manager in Aileen's stead. That's why we've been brought here, to stop the blue carp from going extinct." Black Rabbit's eyes widened in shock. "Piak! You're saying we've left the 99th floor?" His reaction was completely normal, but Quang's excitement was unexpected. Instead of being scared of the new place, he pointed at the mark on Seijin's wrist and exclaimed, "There's a drawing on Dad's wrist." The two kids had clearly been yanked out of the 99th floor right in the middle of their detoxifying green onion harvest. At least they came somewhat equipped. Just then, the system notification for the mission appeared. From now on, investigate the cause that is threatening the extinction of the blue carp. It was time to get to work. Seijin got up and told the kids to follow him. Before parting a cluster of leaves, he warned, "I don't know what might show up, so follow right behind me, okay?" Following the dappled sunlight through the trees, they reached the edge of the forest, and Seijin was left in awe at the sight before him. The crystal-clear sunlight from the blue sky reflected off the lake's turquoise waters, casting a faint bluish hue onto Seijin's face. Zenka Lake stretched endlessly before them, its expanse broken only by low-lying mountains, making the area look more like an ocean than a lake. Compared to the vegetable fields of the 99th floor, this view was a gift. Seijin couldn't help but exclaim, "This place is beautiful." The two kids, mouths agape, were just as stunned. "Dad, there's so much water here. It's amazing." Quang cheered, and Black Rabbit echoed, "Piak, it's my first time seeing this." Though Seijin had seen the vastness of the world before entering the tower, it was different for these kids. Born and raised on the 99th floor, this was their first time seeing another floor. Realizing this, Seijin felt a wave of nostalgia and decided, the mission can wait a bit. How about we have some fun first? With the massive clear lake and the warm sunshine, it was impossible to resist the urge to jump in. Kuang and Black Rabbit dropped their green onions and branches, diving in with joyful splashes. Seijin, after kicking off his shoes, leapt in after them. The small pond on the 99th floor was nothing compared to this lake. He started splashing the kids, sending waves crashing at them. Kuang, unable to fight back, transformed into his giant form, pretending to be a sea monster and scaring both Seijin and Black Rabbit with his dramatic waves. If Quang had really splashed them with his full strength, Seijun might have been gulping down water by the mouthful. After playing to their heart's content, they floated lazily on the water under the warm sun. Black Rabbit alternated between floating on his back and his belly, while Quang and Seijun, looking nearly identical, were already snoring. They played for hours until the white clouds temporarily hid the sun, signaling it was time to dry off. Seijun built a fire to dry their clothes. His white t-shirt, well-maintained, didn't even turn gray. The fabric dried quickly and remained soft, allowing him to put it back on in no time. Black Rabbit patted his cheeks and proudly said, "My fur's all fluffy now." Quang, however, paid no attention to his fur and sprawled out, whining, "Dad, I'm hungry!" After a full day of play, even Seijun felt the hunger pangs. "Me too. We left in such a rush, I didn't bring anything to eat," he admitted. Looking around, he decided, "Should we see if there's anything around?" Leading the kids, Seijun tried to stay optimistic. "If we can find a village, we'll ask for help. We should be able to get some food that way." The two kids eagerly agreed, slinging their green onions over their shoulders. Black Rabbit cheerfully exclaimed, "Piak, I can't wait! Maybe the villages here have delicious food." Seijun, full of anticipation, hummed a little tune as they walked along. La la la. His excitement grew with every step. If they could find a village, he could locate the waypoint for the 75th floor and register it. Then he'd be able to travel freely between the 99th and 75th floors. But his brief joy was rudely interrupted by reality. Bam! Sane slammed into something so hard his nose felt like it might cave in. Clutching his face, he crouched down, groaning in pain. "Ow, ow, ow! It's like there's a wall here." The kids, walking behind him, seemed unaffected. Maybe they couldn't see it? Seijun didn't know what to think until the system offered an explanation. "Your range of activity cannot exceed Lake Zenka." "Oh, come on," he groaned, realizing it was an invisible barrier marking the boundary of Zenka Lake from the rest of the 75th floor. Frustrated, he smacked the barrier, causing ripples to appear. "I can't go any further? What kind of nonsense is this? It's my first time leaving the 99th floor. This is no different from being locked up again, right?" While Seijun spiraled into despair, Quang, hungry and irritable, began banging on the barrier as if someone on the other side might hear him. "I'm hungry. Hurry and give me food." Black Rabbit, the calmest of the group, had a practical suggestion. "Why don't we try catching some fish in the lake?" Piak! Well, if it's just for food, rabbit stew would probably be quicker. Unable to affect the barrier, Seijun lashed out by kicking a random bush, shouting, "Oh, come on, for God's sake!" His theatrics earned him divine retribution. A jolt of pain shot up his leg, leaving him clutching his foot and crying, "Arr! My foot!" Black Rabbit noticed something flying out of the bush and pointed, "Uncle, I think that's the monster that hurt you." But Seijun, now entirely focused on his throbbing foot, sat down in defeat, groaning pitifully. Meanwhile, Quang and Black Rabbit cautiously approached the culprit. Quang, ever the loyal son, declared, "I'll give it a good scolding for hurting Dad." However, before Quang could act, Seijun glanced over and shouted, "Quang, wait!" Quang froze, but only after he had already hoisted the monster high above his head. Strangely enough, it didn't resist. Puzzled, Quang asked, "What's wrong?" But when he saw the excitement on Seijun's face, he looked at what he was holding, a large pineapple. "A pineapple?" Quang tilted his head, still uncertain. "What's that?" Seijun smiled, explaining, "It's a fruit. If it's fruit, it should be edible, right?" They sat down by the edge of the forest near Zenka Lake to inspect their find. The rough, spiky exterior gave way to fragrant, juicy yellow flesh inside. Cutting it open, they took a bite, and instantly, their earlier frustrations melted away. The pineapple was sweet, with just the right hint of tartness. Seijun savored the familiar taste, a reminder of his past. For Quang and Black Rabbit, it was a brand new experience, and their delight was evident in their wide eyes and wagging tails. "So sweet," Quang exclaimed, "and it's a little sour too." Who would have thought pineapples could also grow in the tower's wilderness? Black Rabbit nodded thoughtfully. "There might be more pineapples around here, Piak. Let's look for them later." Seijun agreed. Being a seasoned farmer, he carefully removed the flesh portion as it may spoil and picked off the lower leaves and trimmed them. Holding it up, he explained, "I'll take this back to the 99th floor. If I plant it and it takes root, we can grow our own pineapples back home." Black Rabbit looked at him with admiration, clearly impressed by his uncle's resourcefulness. Meanwhile, Quang had only one thing on his mind, more pineapples. "Dad, I want more." Seijun smiled indulgently, but his joy was short-lived. A faint ripple disturbed the surface of the lake, and a slick, webbed foot stepped onto a nearby rock. The wet sound made Seijun spin around in alarm, only to see a massive green frog-like creature walking on two legs, staring directly at them. Its size and sudden appearance left Sejun gaping. Is that a frog? It's a frog, right? He couldn't believe his eyes. This was nothing like the frogs he knew. It seemed to understand his words, opening its mouth to croak, ribbit, in a strangely endearing way. But before Sejun could entertain the thought of it being a harmless Pokemon-like creature, the system threw up a notification. You have found one of the causes of the blue carp's extinction in Zenka Lake. 2 more notifications followed, delivering a crushing revelation. Middle Manager Quest has appeared. Eliminate all 2,291 frogs in Zenka Lake. Are you kidding me? Sejun screamed. Over 2,000 of these things? What do you think I am, some kind of kamikaze soldier? I can barely handle one. As if to prove the system wasn't joking, more frogs began emerging from the lake, dozens of them at a time. They waddled slowly but steadily toward Sejun and the kids, their sheer numbers sending shivers down his spine. As they stepped out of the water, Sejun's group immediately stepped back. He was over 1.8 meters tall, but these blue frogs still towered above that height. On top of that, they were moving in a group, and who knew how many more were climbing up behind them. The sound of their stomping footsteps echoed loudly each time, with Sejun's panic growing louder with each step. You're saying they're the reason for blue carp extinction? It makes sense, though. No fish could stand up to these guys. Both Kwang and Black Rabbit had already prepared their weapons. Even though they weren't sure what these creatures were, they could smell the danger emanating from them. Just like Sejun, they looked a lot like Pokemon until they all opened their mouths wide and roared, "Frog!" From that moment on, each one showing their terrifyingly twisted faces. Their eyes all turned red, with long, sharp teeth and dripping fangs, looking fierce and unyielding. To top it off, the frogs jumped high into the air, their long tongues lolling out hungrily while their eyes fixed tightly on Sejun. Their tentacle-like arms reached out, ready to grab him, while Sejun's farmer hand quickly touched the axe handle, nervously waiting a little longer. He needed them get a bit more closer. Fortunately, one of them was big enough to attack from a distance before the frogs got too close. A bizarrely transformed stick with the ability to enlarge alongside him, Kwang successfully smashed all the frogs with a single move. The actual size of the little bear had now overpowered them, but with their numbers and ferocity, these blue frogs were a force to be reckoned with. They didn't hesitate for a second at Kwang's straightforward attack, and together they launched another assault on the small bear. Black Rabbit immediately jumped up, gripping his hammer tightly, and swung it fiercely at the tallest frog above, breaking the surrounding swarm in midair, while Kwang below continued to swing his stick, knocking away the medium and close-range frogs. They absolutely couldn't let them get any closer. With the high and mid-levels taken care of by the 2 kids, Sejun, holding the axe alone, dashed toward the blocking frogs in front of him. Damn it, they weren't easy opponents. He had told himself to be careful, but Sejun couldn't have imagined they would use that deadly tongue move. The flexible tongues could stretch like springs. A pair of frogs slapped him in the face, forcing Sejun to duck down quickly, clutching the straw hat on his head. Who knew if they had poison or sawed teeth, he had to avoid them just to be safe. As he ducked, he immediately threw the axe of the great warrior Wukka, watching it spin around him multiple times while steadily slicing the frogs into large pieces. Take that! After finishing, Wukka's axe returned to its owner for another round. So he had taken down the low-level frogs, while Kwang and Black Rabbit had just finished dealing with the mid and high levels, jumping down right behind Sejun with vigilant looks. Humph, I may look like this, but I live on the 99th floor. Sejun angrily pointed at himself, implying that there were even fiercer monsters there that he wasn't afraid of, fearing nothing more than a few blue frogs from the 55th floor. 2 system notifications popped up as if cheering him on. You have defeated 4 frogs. You have obtained 2,000 experience points. Come at me. I'll turn all of you into experience points. Along with the 2 kids behind him, Sejun confidently declared to the frogs. And perhaps they didn't learn any lesson after their kind was beaten to death. They still advanced without any fear. All right, move out, Black Rabbit, Kwang. Sejun waved his hand forward, commanding them. The 2 kids immediately opened their mouths and shouted in response, totaling only 3 from the 99th floor daring to face dozens of frogs from Zenka Lake. This was going to be an extremely difficult mission, with the system initially counting a total of 291 blue frogs. Meanwhile, While Sijin was fighting to protect his life on the 55th floor, Theo was peacefully snoring away on a large bed with a thick, comfortable mattress on the same floor. He was in a luxurious, lavish room with all the furnishings made from expensive materials. It was so quiet here that Theo was sleeping soundly. The cat was snoring so deeply that it suddenly opened its eyes, stretching its limbs. Yawning so wide it almost cried. It mumbled, "I had a good sleep, nya? It's been a long time since I slept on such a soft bed. But still, Sejin's lap are still better, nya." It was just saying that, but if it slept a few more naps, it could fall asleep again right away. Suddenly, a gentle knocking sound came from the large wooden door, just loud enough for Theo to hear, like checking if he had woken up yet. The cat glanced over at the expensive sofa, looking toward the door without saying anything, but it still opened it by itself. It was the familiar face of intern Oren. It just locked eyes with Theo, showing a respectful attitude and polite tone. "Boss Theo, are you awake?" Folding its arms and nodding to the black cat as it respectfully stepped forward, Theo then calmly replied, "Your bed is pretty good, Nia. I'll give you that." The cat nodded repeatedly. "It is my honor, Boss Theo." Oren held his hands in front like an experienced servant. Seeing that Theo's attitude today was relatively good, he softly spoke, "Boss Theo, I've prepared your meal. Would you want to eat now?" Theo was a bit surprised. "What meal? Already have food right after waking up?" Not just any meal, it was a fancy meal of the wealthy folks. The grilled fish displayed on a luxurious white plate was extremely eye-catching, as if inviting any cat in the world, saying, "Here is one of the most delicious dishes on earth." Although Chairman Sejin treated Theo well, giving him the freshest grilled piranha on the 99th floor, seeing the meal meticulously prepared by the mansion chef was something else. The plate of grilled fish seemed to sparkle, inviting Theo to come and take it, and it didn't hesitate to praise it. Salmon, and a high-quality grilled salmon at that. Oren now had become a restaurant manager, feeling honored that Boss Theo liked the meal his house prepared. Next to him, two cat maids gently carried the dining utensils over. Before leaving camp, they didn't forget to invite the special guest to enjoy. Holding a fork and spoon in hand, Theo politely thanked them for the meal first. Oren was pleased when he saw the orange cat starting to cut the fish meat, and he was preparing to step back. "Please let me know if it's not enough." The service at this mansion restaurant deserved a perfect 10. Theo was very satisfied. After tasting a bite of the fish, he grabbed a really large piece and brought it towards Oren, asking, "Do you want a bit?" He waved his hand to decline, his attitude so respectful it was weird. Might wonder if he was too shocked after what happened in front of his yard, to the point of changing personality and knowing his place so well that he even changed his head. He was surprisingly well behaved. A moment later, the delicious salmon was left only with bones in the head. The edible parts had been eaten all up by the orange cat, proving just how Theo liked this dish. Afterwards, Theo leisurely walked down the shiny stone corridor, alongside walls adorned with luxurious wallpaper. Even though this place was completely different from the cave or the normal house Theo used to live in the cat village, he adapted very quickly. While picking his teeth and singing a little tune, Theo was enjoying a dreamy new day. "It's been a long time since I ate this much, nya." He cheerfully walked to the end of the corridor, arriving at the living room. Strangely, as soon as he reached the door, he saw the leader of the Black Wolf clan, Hegel, bowing his head low and trembling in the face of the anger being unleashed. "What are you saying right now?" It was Iona standing on the table, pointing a finger at his face, scolding him without any mercy. "You haven't even confirmed how many frogs are there right now?" Hegel replied sympathetically, knowing nothing else to say except to apologize. "Currently, we can't determine which underwater cave the Frog Queen is in. When we return from there, we'll report back to you." Hegel's complete answer finally eased Iona's tension a bit. In the end, she lowered her voice and nodded, though her words still showed displeasure. "You're not doing anything properly at all." Without saying a word, the Black Wolf clan leader waited for the Archmage to continue venting. Luckily, Theo stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back, voice calm. "Iona, don't be angry, nya." Her anger instantly vanished when she saw the cat, and even greeted it. "It'd be wise not to expect anything from a talentless underling, nya." The cat crossed its arms, eyes glancing at Hegel standing beside it. Its demeanor clearly directed at the Black Wolf clan leader, making him hastily speak to mitigate the situation. "Ugh, I'll make sure to prove my ability." Things seemed to be done here. The Archmage's anger quickly turned into complaining. Iona adjusted her dress, sighed tiredly. "Oh my." Theo immediately asked, Iona, didn't you sleep well last night, Nia? You look exhausted, Nia. Her eyebrows tightly furrowed, hands gesturing urgently. There's no time to sleep. We need to quickly find a way to deal with those frogs. Being too tired to open her eyes while speaking, Iona didn't notice Theo's arm reaching out, grabbing her two armpits and lifting them high. Theo, what are you doing? The monster panicked, as with her status as a great archmage of the Black Tower, no one dared to make such a move with her. But for Theo, she was so light, he could lift her easily, and judging by her expression, she knew he did it on purpose. The cat placed Iona into the familiar green cloak it wore, gently patting her and assuring her, "It's okay. Sleep a bit in my hoodie, Nia. If something happens, I'll wake you up right away, Nia." Iona tried to push Theo's neck with her hands to resist, and the hamster quickly found an excuse for the cat to let her down. "I can't sleep. I have insomnia." Iona's words were cut short as her two arms got tangled in Theo's super soft fur. She instinctively pressed her cheeks against him, feeling the softness and comfort that wiped away all her earlier frustration and panic. No need to count to 10 because she was only at 3. Iona's eyes were already dimming as sleep overtook her. Her mind felt like a cloud slowly dissipating, her head nodding to the side. Before fully sinking into sleep, she still tried to tell Theo, "All right, just a little bit more. I'll be in your care." The cat smiled contentedly, naturally agreeing, "Don't worry and sleep well, Nia." Iona might not have heard the whole sentence. When Theo turned around, she was already snoring softly in his hoodie, clearly exhausted. Happy to see her master finally asleep, Hegel suddenly looked confused at the scene. The wolf looked at Theo, trying to suggest taking Iona back to bed, but Theo refused. "No, Nia, you go do your job." Moving gently on his soft paw, Theo decided to take Iona along so she could continue her peaceful sleep. As they were leaving the room, the cat suddenly remembered something and stopped to call out to Hegel. "Yes," the wolf answered, and Theo's left arm immediately swung up. The cat pointed its two claws at his eyes and then directly at the wolf clan leader, squinting to look menacing. "I'm watching you, Nia." Its attitude seemed playful, but it left Hegel stunned. Almost forgetting that this was also a test of his abilities with Theo, Hegel quickly responded, "We should go to Zenka Lake right now." Just as he closed the door, he realized Elka had arrived outside. The Silver Wolf clan leader looked at Theo as if he'd been searching for him for a while. Upon seeing Elka, Theo immediately asked, "How did it go in the village, Nia?" He didn't forget to lower his voice more than usual, and while asking about the work, he didn't forget that a hamster was sleeping on his back. The clan leader explained, "We've distributed food and necessities to the villagers, but the people want to meet you and are now waiting for you." Looking at the wolf's attitude, it seemed Elka was reluctantly bringing them back, as he should have informed Theo before bringing them. Luckily, the cat didn't pay much attention to that. It just looked surprised at the clan leader and asked, "Me? What's up? Are there any cats in the village that need to meet and are ready to wait for me?" When Theo and the clan leader stepped outside Oren's family's grand castle, Theo was extremely surprised because there were not just 1 or 2 people, as he thought, but nearly 100 cats from the Granar village had come here, silently waiting outside. The orderliness and the number of cats arriving made Theo stunned. "What's going on here, Nya?" he asked. The clan leader was still trying to find the right words, but decided to stay silent as the group of cats gradually approached the doorstep on their own and began to speak. The cats all had identical expressions. They stared pleadingly at the orange cat with shining eyes, clasping their paws in front and whispering to each other, "It's Theo! It's Theo!" They looked back at everyone, unsure of how to speak, when someone from the crowd took the initiative to shout out, "Theo, please take us under you. We really want to learn how to become wandering merchants like you." The cat's arms reached up eagerly, and without Elka, they would have swarmed Theo immediately. After a moment of astonishment, Theo quickly responded to everyone with one word, "No, Nya," and then stopped caring about anyone else, just turning straight inside with an incredibly annoyed face. "Why does everyone keep saying they want to work under me, Nya? It's too troublesome. Nya, I already have enough subordinates." The clan leader hesitated for a moment before speaking up, while still walking with Theo inside. "Please at least listen to what they're saying. After all, you're a hero to them." Theo looked up at the clan leader in surprise. "A hero?" Elka patiently explained. "It's because rumors have spread. With just 1 tower coin, the rising yellow star of the wandering merchant world has climbed all the way to the 99th floor alone and gained the trust of the great black dragon. That's Theo, the golden cat. According to the clan leader's description, in the eyes of the Graynar villagers, he was like a superstar standing on a pile of glittering gold, truly someone who had everything, wealth and high status. The image was so dazzling that Theo widened his eyes and asked the clan leader again, "What really, Nya?" Well, Elka never lies. Yes, indeed. With the current situation of blue frogs ruining the scene, you are the one who saved the village from famine, and also quelled Lord Iona's wrath. So for them, that's an incredible feat. Expanding the business will require a lot of manpower. You must lead everyone outside the 99th floor. Please take them in, at least for the sake of Lord Sejun, the great black dragon. The clan leader's words made the cat listen seriously. Without Elka, how else would it know about what was happening out there? And the wolf's answer still looked far-reaching to help it. Theo wasn't angry. On the contrary, he felt happy and grateful. He nodded slightly. "Thank you, Elka. Nya, you're an extremely loyal subordinate." "I'll consider what you're saying, Nya," the cat replied. Just as it was about to say more, a loud noise at the lobby caught Theo's attention. It was the voice of a gray and white cat, wearing a refreshing green dress, struggling with the castle's guards. She wanted to come in, but they didn't know who she was, pulling her outside. She thrashed around, but refused to leave. Seeing Theo standing not far away, she loudly and confidently called out for everyone to hear, "I know Theo well." Not only do she knew him, but she also made him hesitate for a few seconds when he saw her. "Maril? Is that you, Maril, Nya?" He just stood there asking without daring to get closer, as everyone probably knew the feeling of seeing your ex and all the bitter memories flooding back. But Maril was just not waiting, quickly sending 2 guards out, running to Theo as fast as possible, rushing straight into him with a touching display. She hugged him tightly, calling his name, "I missed you so much," and clung stubbornly. Theo had to use both hands to pull Maril away, panicking and asking her what she was doing. Maril frowned at Theo, keeping her hands firmly on his shoulders and whining softly. "Oh, Theo, you came back to Graynar village without calling me. I'm so disappointed. I knew you'd come back after doing this and that, succeeding in all sorts of ways to impress me." Maril stretched out a claw, pressing it into Theo's palm with affectionate eyes, her voice getting more and more charming. "You liked me the best. I'll accept your feelings." The cat looked at Theo with passionate blue eyes, her cheeks flushed with sincere determination. Not hearing him say anything else, it seemed he had lost consciousness at some point in his head. Maril gently slid her arm into Theo's hoodie, once again softly calling, "Oh, Theo?" She pushed the green hood so far it was about to slip off Theo's shoulders when another, smaller hand blocked Maril's. Unexpectedly, it was Iona sticking her head out from Theo's hood, coldly asking, "So, you're Maril?" Before they could greet each other, Maril let out a long, fearful cry, flinging the hamster aside. Theo heard a sharp yelp beside his ear as he panicked, realizing Iona had just been knocked off his hoodie. Maril was still standing there, screaming weakly, "I hate rats so much!" While both Theo and Elka didn't pay any attention. The orange cat hurried over, and Iona had already fallen to one side, hitting the ground hard, her face scraping the floor, eyes unable to open. The cat, heartbroken, asked her if she was okay, noticing her face, but Iona calmly replied, "I'm fine." The cat's heartbreak quickly turned into angry flames as it looked towards the green-dressed cat and shouted loudly, "Maril, what do you think you're doing?" She screamed in fear, curling up, trying to explain with a pitiful look, "Oh, Theo, why are you angry with Maril? You surprised me. Why are you so worried about that little rat?" Hearing her speak, Theo went crazy, his voice getting louder as he shouted, Maril right in her face without any courtesy. "Obviously. You attacked Iona. Nya, go apologize to her right now, Nya." She hid her face in her hands, whispering that Maril was very sad and asking not to be scolded, but Theo didn't want to listen. He continued shouting, "Iona is more hurt than you, Nya. If she were a normal cat, Maril would have apologized to Iona. But who is Maril?" She was a cat who played emotional games with Theo and was used to having others desperately begging for her affection. That's why when Theo berated her, Maril could only be weak for a few seconds before the tendons on her forehead started twitching under his hands. "Ha! Seriously? I can't stand hearing that thick Graynar dialect anymore." Maril's voice sounded completely different as she spread her 5 sharp claws out. "Don't you understand? This Maril, the beauty of Graynar village, is saying she's going to accept you." Elka smelled something was wrong and immediately stood up, alert, looking directly at her. Although the clan leader didn't want to get involved in Boss Theo's romantic matters, Elka was still ready. She stood up, approaching with her two sharp hooks spread out and a scary expression. "Abandon that rat and come here with me. You stupid yellow cat. Oh my God, is this how girls in Granar flirt?" Not only Theo, but Elka was also extremely shocked. So shocked that his mouth opened wide and couldn't close. He had a wife and child, but he had never seen such a twisted romantic situation like this, so shocked that he couldn't even jump to stop it. Yet, in front of Marel, something familiar appeared. The purple light from the stone attached on top had a dangerous aura, and the owner raised it in front of Marel, gently calling her name as a warning. "I didn't think you'll be able to win Theo's favor like that." Under the hood, Iona calmly gave her about 2 seconds to calm down, but Marel's steps kept approaching. Instead of being angry, the Archmage smiled on her face. "Moreover, Theo and I are already significant to each other, you know?" After saying that, a purple whirlwind coiled up, shooting straight from the top of the staff towards the foolish Marel. No matter how fierce she was, she couldn't resist Iona's magical whirlwind, and she was pushed back. White light radiated in circles, while Theo could only gape down at the hamster. Bang! The purple light suddenly pierced through a corner of the castle, shooting straight outside, taking along a smooth wall. Looking back, there was a large, triangular hole in the wall, showing the sky outside. The wind from there blew fiercely inside, so naturally, there wasn't a single green dress corner left in front of the group, much less Marel. Theo was so shocked that he, standing behind Iona, had been flung onto the floor. After a while, the cat was stunned. Maril flew away, Nya. Clan leader Elka was not unfamiliar with Archmage powers, but now his mouth was even wider than before, truly unable to utter a word. One cat and one wolf were shocked and wanted to faint, while Iona just gently closed her eyes, staggering and collapsing right at Theo's feet. The hamster's face hit Theo's leg but couldn't do anything, because Iona had pressed her face into his soft fur. She hugged him, pressing her face in a very comfortable way. I'm so sleepy, so just a bit longer. Would you let me?" Not sure. She might release another spiral ball into the head of this foolish orange cat if he said no. But at this moment, Theo smiled, an incredibly affectionate and caring smile, as if nothing that happened earlier was anything at all. Using both his hands, Theo pulled Iona back onto his belly so the hamster could press her face against it. He smiled, gently patting her, in a gentle voice. "Sleep well, Iona." On the outskirts of the commercial district, up on the 75th floor, rows of boarding houses stood closely packed together. This area was usually a resting stop for wandering merchants after long days of travel, offering rooms that ranged from luxurious and pristine to modest and cheap. Among the red-roofed houses, there was a 2-story building clad entirely in stone. Not only were the 2 floors below rented out, but even the attic above was put to full use. There, under the faint light filtering through a tiny window, a green goblin's hands were busy counting silver and gold coins spilled out from a cloth bag. It was Skarum, the sly green goblin known for swindling people. Strangely enough, he now found himself cramped in this shabby attic, counting his meager earnings. 4 or 5 coins. It didn't amount to much no matter how he counted. Grinding his teeth, Skarum muttered, "Sk, how much did I even make this time?" Lately, those inspection bureau guys have been way too vigilant these days. It's getting harder to snag these pushovers. With his greedy nature, if he'd made any decent money, there was no way he'd still be holed up in this dirty attic. Thinking about the times he'd scored big only made him more irritable. In frustration, he pounded on the wooden door behind him. "Hey, get it together. Bring me something valuable, will you?" Whoever was behind the door didn't reply, not even a grunt to acknowledge his words. Skarum didn't bother pressing the issue. He grabbed his familiar hat and put it on, ready to start